What's up, Guardians? Welcome to another episode of Tower Talk. This is, what is this, the 5th episode, Brent?
Number 5.
5th episode of Tower Talk. This is our Destiny-focused video discussion series. I'm Ben. That's Brent. You know who we are. We're here on behalf of Short Pause. www.shortpause.com is the website. Follow us on Twitter at The Short Pause as well. So, Brent, this is a big week for Destiny. We got the latest piece of DLC content for the game. It's called Warmind. It's available now on Destiny 2, so you can pick it up. You can also purchase it separately. You don't have to earn Curse of Osiris to purchase Warmind. So that's something that's a little bit different from past DLC releases for Destiny. Also, Tuesday heralded the beginning of Season 3 in Destiny, which is perhaps an even bigger deal than what we're getting with Warmind. So what we want to do on the show today is we want to kind of talk about Warmind, get our first impressions out there, talk about what's going on with Season 3 with Destiny, where it's at right now, and then we'll kind of go from there. So first and foremost, Brent, let's start with the actual campaign of Warmind. So, the first thing we did, hopped into Warmind over the course of a couple nights, played through the campaign, played through the adventures in the game, kind of explored Mars a little bit, got our feet wet. But let's kind of focus in on the campaign right now. And I'm gonna preface this with a couple things. First of all, Destiny is a very fun game to play, regardless of what you're doing. So the gunplay is fun, as always. It's fun to find loot and get weapons and level your character up and do all that kind of stuff. The fundamental act of playing Destiny is and always will be really fun. Secondly, I've said this before, but the world of Destiny 2 is an awesome universe that Bungie has created. It's one of the coolest sci-fi universes out there, bar none. The lore and everything that they've put into constructing this universe is really A+ stuff. So, with that being said, let's talk about the campaign of Warmind. And Brent, for my money, Warmind is perhaps the worst campaign that Destiny's ever put out. So, I mean, it's really a travesty, dude. It's extremely short. It's maybe 5 missions, I think, when all is said and done.
Man.
It's maybe 5 missions, and the last 2 missions are the strike missions for the DLC. The strike missions.
Mm-hmm.
The strike missions are the final 2 missions of the campaign. So these are missions that we're going to be playing over and over and over again. So if the strike missions are the campaign missions, that means when we defeated the last boss, the last boss in this campaign, it was a boss that we're going to be fighting in a strike mission over and over and over. And man, it's just there's a few issues that really irk me about this campaign. First of all, there's some very important story, lore, narrative things that this DLC was hinting to or we thought might explore at least a little bit. So we have Anna Bray, a guardian who was supposed to be dead. Destiny 1, according to everything that we knew about Anna Bray, she was a legendary gunslinger who had passed away. So that's what we knew about Anna Bray. She's alive in Destiny 2. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. Anna Bray, legendary hunter. Maybe we'll learn a little bit about her, see what this is all about. Clovis Bray, the creators of the Warminds, this technological shady corporation that's overshadowed a lot of Destiny and its lore over the years. I figured, all right, cool. Clovis Bray, that's pretty awesome. Maybe we'll get to learn a little bit about Clovis Bray and what they're all about. Then you have the Warmind, Rasputin, who's shown up on several occasions throughout Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. Always mired in mystery. We don't know a lot about the Warminds. There's always questions about them. There's a lot of lore about the Warminds in Destiny and the Grimoire and whatnot that you can get into and kind of learn a little bit more about. But I was like, all right, man, Rasputin. We're gonna start to learn a little bit about Rasputin and what he's all about. Cool. Then we've got the worm god Zol, another big part of the Destiny lore, like the worm gods. These are like the hive gods that they worship, that they praise or whatever. Like these are supposed to be the big baddies of the hive. So there's all this cool stuff that could be explored and that people have questions about. You know what we got in Warmind? We got Zavala coming out of Rasputin and be like, hey, you guys should probably go kill Zol. And that was the campaign. It was us. It was us finding Zavala in Rasputin and then going and fighting Zol and killing it, and that was the end of the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally the campaign. We didn't learn jack shit about Anna Bray. We didn't learn jack shit about Clovis Bray. We didn't learn anything about Zol. We learned nothing more about Rasputin. We literally learned nothing about any of this stuff. I don't even know what the campaign was about. We showed up on Mars. There was a distress signal, and then we went and fought a big worm. That was it. And like I said, like these are extremely important parts of the lore. Nokris is also involved in this lore. Nokris is a son of Oryx. He's the brother of Crota. Oryx, a raid boss, a big bad raid boss that we fought. Crota, a raid boss, a big bad raid boss we fought way back in the Dark Below. And then Nokris, a pushover strike boss, as a throwaway character in Warmind. What? Like, how did that happen? Like in the Taken King, he's one of the statues, one of the pillars, like leading into Oryx's throne room. Nokris is right there alongside Crota. So how did he end up as a pushover strike boss? Zol, this big, huge worm god who always talked about in the story of Destiny. We finally get to face him. It's a 5-minute battle with zero mechanics, where we just shoot the guy and he's dead. That was it. It was such an anticlimactic battle, and it's just like, man. And I should have realized this when all of these elements were coming together. Like the story of Anna Bray, the story of Clovis Bray and the Clovis Bray Corporation, the story of Rasputin and the Warminds, and the story of Zol. These are literally 4 stories that could have maintained a DLC all by themselves, or maintain a campaign all by themselves. And the fact that they tried to squish all that into this one and gave us literally nothing about any of them, it was just a travesty, man. So this sounds extremely negative, and the narrative is really, really bad in Warmind. It's atrocious, man. It's a slap in the face to the Destiny community and what they want out of the lore and the narrative in Destiny. So I just hope moving forward, when we get to this fall update, that we can get some type of a narrative that in some way, shape, or form taps into the potential of this universe. Mm-hmm. There's all this cool stuff that goes on in the lore, in the web lore, in the grimoire, in the comic books. Like, all this cool stuff's going on. I just want some of that cool stuff in the damn game. Mm-hmm. Like, why is that so much to ask? The Taken King delivered on that. That's why the Taken King was so beloved. Not just for the fact that it had a cool campaign and a straightforward story that focused on one aspect, but it did a lot of other stuff cool as well. But hell, that's why House of Wolves was cool. Like, the story of Skolas was very straightforward. Here's this like renegade fallen dude who's trying to unite the fallen houses and get his power back or whatever. So that was like a straightforward story. Warmind, just man, just a severe disappointment from a narrative perspective, man. Hop in here, Brent.
Yeah, man. I keep telling myself every time an expansion comes out, I'm like, here we go. We'll finally get a nice narrative, a good story, a robust campaign. I mean, nothing super long. I mean, this is a $20 expansion that includes maps, strike missions, a new raid lair, and all that jazz. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, dude, this was incredibly disappointing. I mean, when we were streaming it, as soon as we killed Zol, we were seriously like, well, that's not it, is it? Because we get this strange cutscene with Anna Bray, speaking for Rasputin, and he says a couple things like, he's going to work on his own, at his own pace, doing his own thing. He's not going to be controlled by anybody. He will defend the universe as he sees fit. And, and then it just cuts away, and we're like, is that it? That's it. And like you said, the boss battles were incredibly disappointing. Obviously, they'll be much more difficult in the Nightfall, but in terms of like its story, you would expect Zol to be a badass, a tough battle. You would expect Nokris to be a badass because he's Oryx's son, he's Crota's brother, and you would think, okay, there's gonna be a sweet battle. That thing was over really quick. Not terribly dismal, not terribly challenging, not very interesting at all. Like you said, we don't know anything about. I don't even know why I was killing Zol. Zol came around at the end of after you killed Nokris, and he said stuff you could barely understand, and then you wake up, and then you go and kill him. It was really just a discombobulated story, and just poorly done. And at this point, dude, I guess this is just what we can expect from Destiny in terms of the story. I'm not accepting it. I don't think that's okay because there's so much potential here. They,
Hmm.
Bungie spends all this time creating this big universe, these epic settings, the scale of these areas is massive, but it's just a shallow experience in terms of its narrative, and that's just really, really disappointing. And here we are now. The Curse of Osiris was a step back. Um, the Warmind, in terms of its narrative, was actually, I thought it was even less coherent than Curse of Osiris, which
Oh
isn't
yeah,
easy to do.
the
And it's
narrative of
just
Curse of Osiris
I
and the
can't I
story campaign was far superior to Warmind.
yeah, and it's just it's very upsetting. It's disappointing because you feel like Bungie is just pissing away a fantastic opportunity to really flesh out this world, flesh out these characters, and,
Hmm.
and like you said, they're just kind of like Anna Bray is there to sell you stuff now, and that's literally all you. That's all she does. I mean, she's supposed to be this badass hunter, and she's setting up shop inside the Clovis Bray like the main part of the building. It's just like this is it, huh?
Yeah,
And
I thought it was weird because you finished the first mission in the campaign, and then she's already relegated to vendor status,
yeah,
like right after that. So I was like, huh. Usually, like they become vendors maybe towards the end of the
right.
campaign or
They're
once you
they're
finish it up.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're with you along the way. They're
yeah.
doing something alongside you during the course of the campaign. Nope. As soon as you find her, she's like, "All right, cool. You found me. I can stop doing what I'm doing. I'll be inside the building in the hallway."
I'll collect your Mars tokens for here on out.
Yeah. It's like, really? You're a badass hunter, and that's it, huh? Cool.
Mhm. Yeah. It's just disappointing, man. It's just there's just no other no other way to put it. Just
Mm-mm.
incredibly disappointing that, especially for this content. I mean, like I said, man, this is stuff that is like core to the Destiny experience.
Mm-hmm.
War Minds and the Hive Gods and all this Anna Bray, like the Bray Corporation. This is stuff that's like deep rooted in the heart of the story
Mm-hmm.
of Destiny. I mean, they created the War Minds, the Bray Corporation.
Yep.
We learned nothing about this shadowy corporation. So the narrative campaign, a huge disappointment. There's been some disappointing campaigns throughout Destiny's life, but to me, Warmind is by far the most disappointing campaign they've ever put together. Not to mention I mean, j- just building on the fact that there's 5 missions and 2 of them are strikes. The final 2 missions of the campaign are the 2 strike missions.
Yep.
That's just so weak, dude. That the strike missions are the campaign missions. Bungie, if you're listening, please stop doing this. Like when you first mentioned it with Curse of Osiris, I thought maybe that would be cool. Like, oh, cool, they're trying to integrate it with the story. I thought maybe that they would still be a separate thing that we went to. It would still be a separate strike, but maybe the storylines tied in or something like that. I didn't realize when they were talking about this during Curse of Osiris that the actual strike missions would be the actual campaign missions as part of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And man, they took it to the next level with Warmind. I mean, seriously. You get 1 mission on Mars, you go to EDZ for something, then you're back doing the strike missions, and then the thing's over.
Mm-hmm.
It was really just bizarre, and you really feel like cheated from the campaign that you got with Warmind.
Yep.
All right, so all that said, Brent, like I said, that sounds extremely negative with Warmind. But there's 2 sides to the war. Actually, there's quite a few sides to the Warmind coin.
Right.
And there's the narrative side, which we would all like to be better. But there's everything else outside of the narrative. There's the escalation protocol and the new light levels and the raid layers and all the new loot and the redone heroic strikes and all this other stuff. There's a new destination that's really cool. There's all this other stuff that's around Warmind, and that is where this DLC excels, and that's where I think at the end of the day this is going to be somewhat of a success, at least for the hardcore Destiny fans. There's a lot to like here as a hardcore Destiny fan. The casual Destiny fans, they're probably going to be extremely put off by this DLC.
Mm-hmm.
That's okay with me at this point. I think we do need to cater a little bit to the hardcore at this point in Destiny's life, but this DLC, the activities are tough. It's a little more impenetrable than the base level Destiny game. There's a lot more that goes into this one. So talk to me about everything else going on outside of the campaign, man.
Yeah, like, like we've got the negative out of the way. Like, the one thing I'm going to take away from Destiny 2 so far, or Warmind so far, is it has introduced. I'm more interested in the update 1.2 and the season 3 changes. That's the those are the things that kind of like are the silver lining around the Warmind campaign. Okay, we've got as you mentioned, we've got the escalation protocol. That's going to be really, really cool. I've jumping into it after beating the campaign. And even with the full group of people in the area, we couldn't even get past the first boss most times. I mean, there's a big ogre that appears. That's the level 1 boss.
Yeah.
And time would run up before we could kill him. Even though you and I actually were playing the other night, and we actually were able to kill him.
Yeah, it's funny. But, I mean, we beat him one time
at the last second. And during the stream, I was like, "Whoa, that's." Like, seriously, we just beat him. That hasn't happened yet. But and that's just level 1. I mean, it took everything we had, and it was down to the last second. So obviously, this is going to be a much more difficult challenge. We have to rank up. We have to get our character up to par if we want to be able to compete and then actually have a chance at getting some of the rewards and ultimately finishing off the protocol. So that's very intriguing. I'm very interested by that, and I don't mind grinding towards that. The other thing I like are the exotics. I mean, some of those new exotics that we've been using are very, very cool. The newly tuned exotics, Skyburner's Oath is really, really fun.
Skyburner is a beast.
That one is really, really fun. I actually started using Graviton Lance. That's another fine gun now, so I really do enjoy using that. And Risk Runner and Hard Light are both feel really good to play with. Now, Hard Light, dude, I've actually seriously made a concentrated effort where if I have an enemy in front of me, I am aiming just below their feet. So the ricochet rounds are bouncing up and hitting them, and I'm killing them much faster. But I mean, I don't know if I want to keep doing that all the time. But it is pretty cool to be able to know that, hey, this thing does double the damage off the ricochets. So I'm aiming at the feet, and you can see the damage points are doubled. And you're just like, man, that is kind of cool. But the trade-off is you're looking at the ground, so you're not really paying attention to anything else around you.
Yeah.
So I dig the exotic changes, and we'll talk about that in a second. And then the other thing that the one thing that I'm really enjoying the most, though, Ben, are the collectibles or the hidden items littered throughout Mars. Yeah. We've got these codes that you can get that you can combine that create a frequency override, and there's these floating devices throughout the world of Mars. There's some are hidden, some are in plain sight, and you have to get 4 of these codes to combine like a frequency override, and then the frequency override will actually show you, hey, look, this is it'll give you like kind of like a little bit of a hint of where you can possibly find this thing. So you go and you find it, and then you find these things, and you listen for music. There'll be music playing when you're close to it, and it'll kind of already be opened a little bit, and then you just collect the loot, and then you get that. So I've really enjoyed going around. You collect those override frequency things from public events and lost sectors. If you complete a heroic one, you get 2 of them. So you need 4 to create the override, and then you have to find the actual device that you can override to access it. So you have those, and then obviously there's the caches that are laying around all over. There's 45. Finding those things has been a blast. It's been really, really fun. And at 35, once you collect 35 items, you get the World Line 0 sword. And that thing is a blast to play with, dude. It's a really, really cool gun. I'm sorry, real cool sword. And I've really enjoyed using that. And it's really, really effective in combat, especially with its Tesseract ability. That's actually really cool. So, but, the things I like the most is just everything that we have this grind now. We have this grind. We've got weapon quests. I'm currently working on the Sleeper Simulant. And that's a beefy quest, from my understanding. I read online to see how many steps there are. I'm about halfway through, and these last 4 steps are going to take some time. But, dude, here I am now. The thing I've talked about prior to Warmind was I want a reason to be on every night. And, brother, I have been on every single night way, way too late because I'm trying to get these items. They've created that grind for me now. Now I have a reason to be like, hey, I'll hop on for a little bit and work on this quest. Or I'm going to go look for some more caches. I only need 8 more to complete the set. I want to go around and collect more overrides to collect all those things. I have a reason to spend lots of time, even if you guys aren't on. That's the most important thing. Like Wednesday nights is milestone night. We all play together. But now I can hop on by myself and do all these things that I need to do. And that's the grind that I want. That's the reason I want to be on other nights other than Wednesday, and I currently have that now.
Yeah. Definitely, man. And you mentioned those like secrets and stuff, and that to me was always one of the coolest things about Destiny 1. It was about things like the sleeper simulant quest in that game. It was about the black spindle quest.
Mm-hmm.
It was the outbreak prime quest. It was like learning about these just elaborate mysteries that people are unraveling. There's a Reddit. There's Reddits dedicated to this stuff. People like come together and try to decipher like what's going on with these Destiny secrets, and that's what makes the Mars Hellas Basin in Warmind so cool.
Mm-hmm.
There's all these little things littered throughout that you keep coming across, you keep finding. You're like, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
What do I do with this? Like, what does this lead to? It's like you mentioned. There's the caches that you find. There's the override frequencies. There's this strange vault you come to that says Pavilion or Pavalos or something like that, and it has a number of caches that you have to have before you can access it.
Mm-hmm.
There's different like little quests and things that drop for you that you're like, what is this? And then there's this very interesting thing that's going on in the Destiny community right now. There's this symbol that's been found inside Rasputin's bunker.
Uh-huh.
And this is the kind of stuff that I love, man. This is like this could be an Outbreak Prime level mystery that these people are trying to unravel. But currently on Reddit, in the raid secrets thread, they're trying to figure out what this symbol means, how to crack this puzzle, and what this could eventually lead to. And they've done everything from tracking down symbols in the environment to making connections between these symbols and classical music, to even deciphering words in like Morse code and Braille. There's all this crazy stuff that's going on that these people are trying to figure out with this, and I'd be very shocked if this doesn't eventually lead to some type of a secret quest that nobody knew about.
Mm-hmm.
So this symbol, it's like shaped like a key, and it's got a bunch of other keys, or it's like a lock with a bunch of other keys around it. So I think it's a pretty safe bet that this is gonna eventually lead to something these big grandiose Destiny mysteries generally do. It's just gonna be interesting watching the community try to figure this stuff out. But I love stuff like this, man.
Yeah, it does. It makes it interesting, and it keeps people talking. It keeps the community active. It keeps the excitement in the air. Everyone's going to try to figure out what this is, what weapon or piece of gear is waiting for us. And that's the beauty of Destiny. When Bungie does stuff like this, that's when Destiny shines. And, I'll be following that along. Obviously, the Outbreak Prime thing would have gave me a headache had I actually sat down to try to figure it out. So I'm going to let the Reddit community try to figure this out, and I'm just going to enjoy it from afar. And then when I figure out how to do it, then I'll carry out the mission. But no, it just creates a sense of awe and wonder in a world that is typically pretty shallow in terms of its narrative. The content within the world is actually very appealing.
Yeah, and that's the thing that Destiny does so well. Like it builds this world up in the background. So whether it's through the lore, there's actually quite a bit of lore in Warmind too. Like there's lots of things you can find around the world.
Yep.
You can come across Prince Aldrin's ship at one point, which I thought was really cool.
That was
There's
cool.
a famous grimoire card or series of cards that describes his story following the events in the Taken King. So it's cool to see like that kind of stuff like show up in the universe here for us to find and see. So and often these little pieces of lore, these little hints of story actually point towards what we might get in the future from Destiny. So it's probably a safe bet that at some point we're gonna come across Prince Aldrin again and pick up his story after we found his ship in the environment here. But there's all this little stuff like that I love about this world, and I want that stuff to be integrated into the campaign. I want us to experience how cool this world is and how cool these stories are that can be told within the confines of a Destiny campaign. We don't often get to say that, and that's just a shame, man. So yeah, but yeah, the Mars environment I think is really cool. It's much bigger than Mercury. Obviously, it's pretty much like the size of the other areas that we have in the game. It's a very expansive area with multiple different levels and multiple different areas for you to explore. There's a wide variety of terrain, from the Braytech Corporation buildings to inside of Rasputin in his bunker, to in the Hive catacombs, to the surface of Mars, to the icy glaciers. There's so many different areas to explore in Mars. It's a really cool area, and I'm looking forward to getting into there and looking into it a little bit more. I haven't got to spend as much time as you yet, kind of exploring the world and getting into some of the other stuff. I've only kind of tinkered with things here and there, but I've enjoyed what I've come across so far. And like you mentioned, Brent, and like we talked about earlier, Warmind is only one part of this. Season 3 is active right now, so we've got season 3, and really even more so than Warmind, I think season 3 being active and the things that they've changed is an even bigger deal. So you mentioned the exotics. The Crucible ranking system is active right now. So there are people actively chasing Redrix's Claymore and trying to get their hands on it. And I hope you're a good player, because if not, it's going to be a grind to get Redrix's Claymore. But I'm up for the challenge. I do want that gun. That gun looks absolutely sick. So we've got this entire season to kind of work on our Crucible ranks, and that's going to be something really fun to grind with in Crucible. We've never had that before. It's always been really fun to play Crucible and to get in there and to play Iron Banner and do whatever with that. But now we actually have a legitimate, like, long-term grind in the Crucible for real, tangible weapon rewards that we can add to our character, and that's really cool. So there's that going on. There's the exotic Masterworks. I haven't even found an exotic Catalyst yet.
I haven't either.
Yeah, so getting our hands on one of those and trying to masterwork all of our exotics, that's a whole nother side of the coin as well. So, so what do you think about what's going on with season 3? What stands out to you?
Yeah, I actually jumped into Crucible today, this morning. Man, I tell you, like I said, I was up late last night, and then I got this morning. I was like, I'm gonna hop in the Crucible, and I won 4 out of 5 matches in competitive, so I started out pretty strong. But I didn't get to the first level rank. I believe that's 220 is where I need to be to get to the first rank of the glory. But no, it's that's the most appealing thing is the glory, because I want that pulse rifle. But I love the fact that I have a reason to do good. I want to get in there with friends. I want to play well. I want to do well. You have incentive now, which is something that was never really there other than tokens and stuff like that. Or Iron Banner had a little more value, a little more incentive. But now the base level Crucible stuff, competitive mode specifically, has more incentive for you to grind in there and spend a lot of time if you're really interested in grabbing that gun.
Yeah. So I'm very interested in that gun. I want that thing, man.
I know you do.
Just watching video on that thing looks sick, man. Really want to get my hands on it. And then this is not even to mention, Brent, the fact that the final raid layer for Leviathan active right now, Spire of Stars. So that is also available as part of this content. I tell you what, man, the raid just went live earlier today, and the world's first just came in, actually not too far before we started recording this video here, and man, it was upwards of 6.5 hours for the first team to figure out their way through this, and it took them 12,000 kills and 600 deaths to get through this raid layer. Now, if you'll remember, raid layers are supposed to be a smaller version of the raid, kind of like a mini raid, but the completion time to get through this raid layer was it just sounds incredibly epic, dude. And it took them 6.5 hours to get through a raid layer. So I thought it was funny. Deej tweeted out that this is what happens when you tell us that our game is too easy, or something to that effect. Is you get a balls hard raid layer that from some of the comments I've read on Twitter sounds incredibly epic, and I can't wait till we can one day get in there and experience Spire of Stars. That's crazy to think, man. We spent all this time with Destiny 2, and we haven't even experienced arguably its best content with the Leviathan raid in all of its forms, in its 2 raid layers and the raid proper. But we're gonna change that soon. Mark my words, Brent. I don't care what we have to do. We're gonna play these raids soon, and we're gonna get in there. We're gonna experience this end game content that we've got to get our hands on, man. But yeah, just right. Spire of Stars sounds epic, dude.
Well, here's the thing, dude, that I'm really digging about what I've heard of that, and then if you look at the other items, I mean, Escalation Protocol, incredibly difficult. You're gonna have to really rank up to be able to compete in that.
Hmm.
The raid, from what we understand, is a very challenging raid. Many of the I follow a lot of the guys that are on Professor Broman's team, and all of them
Yeah.
had the same thing to say: best raid they've ever played. They've enjoyed it the most, and that's bold.
Wow.
That's a
Wow.
bold statement, all things considered. You know, we get the Vault of Glass,
Yeah.
the Oryx raid. I mean, all these were
Yeah.
fantastic raids, but these guys really enjoyed this one. That's incredibly difficult. Dude, I hopped into the heroic strike missions. Those are incredibly difficult. So I mean, we've got a lot of end game content where Bungie has heard this
Prestige
stuff where people are
Nightfall.
saying, "Oh,
Difficult.
Prestige Nightfall is going to be incredibly difficult." You have 4 end game pieces there now that are going to be very, very challenging. You're going to have to grind to get to the level. You're going to have to grind to get through it.
Mhm.
And dude, that's all I want, man. I don't want to be able to hop in there and just plow through stuff and be done for the night. I want a challenge. I want it to be hard because I'm going to want to come back and do it again and again. And that's one of the biggest takeaways that I've enjoyed the most. Is I can't say I've enjoyed the most because I haven't beaten any of them yet, but I beat Heroic Strike. I beat a Heroic Strike, all 3 of them that I needed to do. But, you know, for the other stuff, that's what I want, man. I want challenging end game content.
Yeah. And that's where there's going to be this divide in the player base right now, the hardcore Destiny community. Like, I think they're going to find a lot to like with Warmind and with Season 3 and with the stuff to grind for. So whether you're a hardcore Crucible player or you're a hardcore PvE player, like, you're going to have heroic raids and prestige nightfalls and the prestige raid and the raid layers and the escalation protocol and all that stuff you're going to be able to get into. From everything I've seen, looks hard as hell. So there's going to be quite a bit of challenge with the end content in Warmind. And then there's going to be this other group of players that's going to be like, well, this is too hard. I can't even, like, you finished the Warmind campaign and you're nowhere near ready for escalation protocol.
No.
And for the casual player, might finish it and be like, I can do this thing now. Let me activate this. And then they get waxed in the first wave. So yeah, the casual player, but I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this game catering to the hardcore community. This is a $20 expansion that pretty much the hardcore community is primarily interested in to begin with, and Bungie's got some work to do in terms of appealing to their core Destiny player base. So while I've seen a few people complaining about it, it's just like, like, what do you want Bungie to do? It's like, you damned if you do, damned if you don't. You asked them to make the game more challenging, you asked them to bring the grind back and the secrets and all this kind of stuff, and then you still want to complain about it. So but yeah, I think by and large, this season of content and the end game of Warmind is going to appeal to the hardcore Destiny fan, and it will have them playing for quite a bit of time as they're grinding to get these new items and get this new loot and figure out the secrets and all the stuff that we just talked about with Warmind.
Exactly.
So other than that, Brent, that is going to do it for our initial impressions of Warmind. Obviously, we're going to continue to play the game. We're going to continue to report on it, talk about it on Tower Talk here, and I would imagine now the ramp up begins to the next DLC. And you know, from what we understand, there's going to be a new mode in the next Destiny DLC, which according to the people who've played it and according to Activision and Bungie, is unlike anything that they've had in Destiny before, and maybe even in a shooter before. So it's I'm very interested to see what this is going to be. It's possible it may even show up at E3. There's been some talk about that. So it won't be too long before we're starting to talk about what's coming from Destiny in the fall. And the fall is going to be the big Destiny 2 release. Like, this is the big Taken King style release where they try and get everybody back that may have left the game, or may have walked away from it, may have been displeased with how the game started. This is where they try to reset things and kind of get back to where they need to be, much in the same way they did with Taken King in the very first Destiny. So I can't wait to see where we go from here, because some of the things they've talked about in the fall update are some of the things that the community's been hankering for. So yeah, I can't wait to see where we go from here. But I think Warmind is going to be a good stepping stone towards what we see from Destiny in the fall, and I'm locked in for the ride, man.
Yeah, man. Like I said, we've got plenty to do right now. This is going to be a grind. I mean, obviously, there's going to be people who play Destiny 2 all day, and they're going to get through it a lot quicker. But for myself, from what I played so far, I'm cool with this grind. I have plenty of stuff to do that's going to keep me busy over the next couple of months leading up to that big launch in the fall. So I like what I've seen so far. Obviously, we'll come back and we'll talk more about it as we play more Heroic Strikes, as we play the Prestige Nightfall, and as we work our way towards the Raid Lair and ultimately the Escalation Protocol as well. So we'll have a lot to talk about over the coming months, but initial impressions, the story sucked. It's disappointing, but I guess that's what we should just come to expect from the narrative from Bungie at this point. It's going to be a shallow experience. It's not going to dive into the lore that we want, or into the depths of the lore that we would hope they would, and that's disappointing. But as long as they're continuing to move the game forward in terms of like the type of content for us to play, they keep putting the carrot on the end of the stick for us. That's all I really want at this point. I guess just expecting much from a narrative from Bungie at this point is just kind of silly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's what it comes down to, man. The narrative not great. Everything else around it, I think is pretty good, and I can't wait to play some more. I've got a lot of stuff to do in this game now. I mean, I had maxed out a lot of what I could do in Destiny through Curse of Osiris, but there's a lot of stuff to do now with the end game in Warmind, and I've got a lot to grind through. I've got a lot of Crucible to play in the future here. So yeah, looking forward to that over the next few months, man, as we build up to the release of the Taken Queen or whatever it's going to be called when it finally comes out. We also should be pretty close to a new roadmap update. If I had to guess, maybe this week at Bungie, we'll see a roadmap update. But they've talked about trying to do that once a month, so we'll see what they're planning for the future here pretty soon, man. And we've got some cool things coming up this summer too, like the return of bounties, some new seasonal events, the return of faction rallies to look forward to. So there's lots of other stuff coming on the pipe. But yeah, for the time being, tons of stuff to do at the end of Warmind here. Any final thoughts, Brent, before we get out of here?
No, man, let's go play.
I dig it. So thanks, guys, for watching, listening to this episode of Tower Talk. We'll be back next time once the next piece of Destiny news breaks. We'll be on here talking about it. But make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel if you like what we do here. Get in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. Twitter handles are under our picture. www.shortpause.com is the website. Follow us on Twitter @theshortpause so you can keep up with us. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.